Romance at a glance. Romance at a glance.
What you say now?
Romance at a glance.
Go ahead, girl.
All right, everyone. As you guys know, this is Luca Vitiello by Cora Reilly. It is book number 0.5 of the Born in Blood Mafia Chronicles. So this is the male perspective of book number 1, which is called Bound by Honor, which is from Arya, the female character's perspective. Interesting to note, you guys, is that I was curious about the rest of the season, or series rather, and the next books are all dual point of view. So it's kind of interesting.
Did you read ahead of all these books, Bridget?
I did not read all of them, but after reading this, I was like, at least one of us has to like skim through Arya's point of view to see what's different.
Yeah.
And it's very much the same book, aside from that. In this book, you get a little bit of his childhood. In that book, you get a little bit of her childhood. And then you do have a couple scenes that he's not in that she has. But for the most part, it's the exact same book.
Yeah. I skimmed through the book as well, and I was like, this is the same book. Okay, I would like y'all to weigh in, if you can, on Instagram. DM us, please, because I want to know if you enjoy having a second book written from, like, the other person's perspective.
So I think the reason that she did this is because everyone was really upset that he cheated on her. And they didn't have his mindset.
Yeah.
So a bunch of the reviews I was reading were talking about how, this book was only written so that she could try to redeem Luca in her eyes. And I know a lot of people have problems in romance novels where there's cheating on the page.
Yeah.
And typically I don't disagree. And I wonder if because I read his recollection first, I really didn't care that much.
I didn't care either.
But, like, I wonder if I had read her recollection, because I read that scene to see, like, how much sadder it was. And she was, like, you know, horrified and so sad because it felt like a betrayal. And she was, like, in her mind was warming up to him, but she hadn't literally told him that. So in his mind, she's like, she doesn't want me. She doesn't want to sleep with me. I'm giving the space she wants, but, like, what am I to wait forever and never have sex again? And so it is interesting. And this, I think, is the only book we've read that's single point of view this season.
I loved that I was only reading one point of view, because then I got to discover things about Arya when he discovered things about Arya. Right. Which I was like, thank God. This double point of view thing, I don't like. I'm getting I'm liking it less and less and less.
Yeah. I feel like it's very normal especially for like romance novels and stuff. To have dual.
I feel like it wasn't normal when I was a kid, or when I was younger reading romance.
It was usually just from the woman's point of view, and you just didn't know anything about the dude except for what happened to her from him. And she had to, like, figure it out. I do agree with you. I like the idea of, like, figuring it out with whoever the MC is that we're following.
Yeah, and then you don't have to worry about, like, what you're writing in each one's point of view if it's conflicting with your final plot.
You know what I also think is that I get more mad at the characters in a dual point of view, because I'm like, you could just tell them your feelings, you fucking, like, you piece of shit. All you have to do is have one conversation. This whole book would be different. But, like, in a single point of view, you're only getting their side, so you don't have the chance to, like, get annoyed with the other person.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. And you can see why that person's mad at whoever the MC is you're following, because you're like, well, I know you feel this and you didn't tell them, so what do you think was going to happen? Whereas if I had heard that person's point of view and heard that I love them and I don't want to tell them, you'd be like, someone just needs to nut up.
Yeah.
Come on. Good Lord.
Oh, before we go too deep in, I want to talk about the narrator real quick.
Please.
Okay, because the narrator is Sebastian York, and he narrates, like, all these indie author mafia, freaking Russian mafia, Italian mafia books. But he's been in this game for a minute now, and you'll hear him on everything. And when I first heard his voice, I didn't like him that much, because I feel like he doesn't put that much emotion in his voice. Okay. But now that I've listened to him so much, he almost feels like an old friend whenever his voice comes on. He still doesn't put that much emotion in, but his voice is so deep that sometimes you don't care. It's just like a nice rumble. It rumbles through your soul. Mm-hmm. So this is the first time I've done this, but somebody wrote a review about Sebastian York, and I'm going to read that review. And it says, Sebastian York is all of the things that I love about him in this story. Gruff, alpha, sexy, and naughty. He performs these stories so well that one can't help but grin and enjoy his voice, as only he can deliver certain lines and tones. This is a delicious Sebio buffet.
That's amazing.
And I was like, yeah, because his voice is a snack.
Ooh, guys, if you haven't listened to the audiobook of these, get on it. It sounds like snacks in your future.
Snack.
I feel like I probably would have liked this book better if I had a rumbling baritone in my ear.
I'm going to make you listen to one of the sex scenes.
I would love to. Okay, so let me just quickly go through the cover art and synopsis before we get too deep into this. So what I was laughing about when you first got here, Shawty, is I didn't even realize there was a woman in that cover art until I just looked at it again. Because she like blends into his shirt. And I just saw him in like the suit kind of like looking down. And I was like, ooh, I like the black and white photo. I like the red font. And then when I just looked back at it, I was like, oh shit, there's a lady laying in his lap.
You just said this lady's so white she blends in with his shirt.
I'm going to tell you a fun story from my college days with my college boyfriend.
Oh shit.
So he was incredibly pale.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I am a white lady, but he was a pale man. To the point where, like, if he was wearing a white t-shirt, it's hard to distinguish, like, where the white t-shirt ended and his skin began. So anyways, one day we were laying on the couch watching a movie, and we weren't even, like, fucking or fooling around, like, no hands in pants, nothing. Like, we were just literally snuggling watching a movie. And the door to the house or apartment was behind me. And my roommate came in and we turned around and we were like, oh, hey. And she was like, oh my God, and covered her eyes and like backed out. And I went outside and I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, he doesn't have a shirt on. And we were dying because he had a white t-shirt on, but she couldn't see it. It was so fucking funny.
Oh, that's funny.
That was great. I was like, he has a shirt on.
Sometimes it be that way, man. Like my sister took wedding photos, and my sister has a darker complexion, and her husband is just pale as shit. And when you photograph people together that are that different skin tone, you have to be aware of it.
It's hard to get the photos right.
Yeah, so she was kind of in the shade, and he was kind of in the sun.
Oh no!
And he looks like, I call him ghost husband.
Yeah. He's blinding.
Yeah, and his hand is on her stomach, and it looks like a freaky. Like to this day, I always mess with her about it. I'm like, who is this ghost husband? It's some Whoopi Goldberg shit.
That's so good. All right, let me tell you guys the quick synopsis.
Bridge.
All right. So this book, obviously, again, is from Luca's point of view, as he's in an arranged marriage with the daughter of another crime family. He is set to inherit his crime family. He set up when she's 15 years old, but the wedding is postponed at his request until she's 18. She is scared and asks him to wait and not rape her, which I feel like is fair on her wedding night. Mm-hmm. And so he cuts himself, fakes the bloody sheets, and they go back to NYC, and he's slowly melted by her goodness, and she falls in love with the man within the monster. There is also a pretty significant portion of the book, which is his childhood with his incredibly abusive father, and like him and his brother finding the mom when she killed herself, him killing his first person at 11 who was like had broken into their house to kill him, and sort of like him becoming, through sort of necessity and also conditioning, an incredibly ruthless human being and mobster. That's pretty much the whole story. I would love to hear you talk about how he has a heart of gold, but he's a monster, Shawnee. Because as I was reading this book and he's like, okay, fine, I'll wait. I was like, oh, Shawnee's not going to be happy about that. This is dark romance. I'm sure she wanted him to like seduce this girl until she gave it up to him. Even if she had some qualms after, I think he wanted him to like lick her into submission or something.
I mean, you're not wrong. What you're saying sounds like me. You know what it is? So I'm not opposed to the heart of gold, and I do love that trope. However, because we're in an entire dark romance season, when you read that trope over and over and over again, you're like, okay, I just want something different. This book to me in general was a really stock standard mafia story, you know, and the darkness of it was like the abuse he handled, you know, as a kid, and the violence in the book, and maybe that their marriage is a forced marriage. Right. But that's where the extent of the darkness happened for me in terms of
their relationship wasn't dark at all.
No, not at all. And I think in dark romance, when I hear dark romance, I want darkness in the relationship. Yeah. I want something more to happen. But I thought their romance itself was pretty like chill, you know.
It's pretty vanilla.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
It's pretty sweet, pretty like, you know. I did think that she was driving me a bit crazy because we only had one point of view, it seemed like she kept being really waffly. Like she was like, oh, I'm falling in love with him. But there's no way for him to know that she's falling in love. He just sees her grimacing over and over again.
Sure.
And then she's like, but I was so close to wanting to be with you. And he's like, how am I?
I like that he calls her out on that, though.
Yeah, like, how am I supposed to know that?
Because she says that, and he's like, how was I supposed to know that? You flinch every time I come near you. Like, you don't like me. You told me you don't want to sleep with me, and you don't want to be with me, and you don't want to be my wife. Yeah. So, like, what am I supposed to think?
That's why I wasn't mad at him. So I was mad at him cheating, but not cheating. I was mad at him cheating with Grace.
I agree. He should have just gone to, like, a whorehouse or something.
He should have found somebody new, because he already knew Grace was into some shady bullshit, and he knows that he can't really touch Grace.
Yeah.
So, like, out of respect for his wife, he should have gotten rid of the messy bitch,
right?
And found himself a nice non-messy bitch who knows
a professional who gets paid to walk away.
Who knows?
She's not paid to fuck you. She's paid to leave.
You know what I'm saying? So that was my only qualm with his cheating. Actually, was that he just picked somebody who was going to make her life messy, and that's my qualm with cheating in general at all. Right? No, I don't want my partner to cheat on me. Let me start there. However, if you're going to cheat on me, don't do it with a messy person. Don't do it with somebody who's going to show up at my house. Somebody who's going to be texting you all times of the day. Somebody who knows what time it is, knows that you got a woman at home and that they're on the side and that they're going to take what they can get. But when you start crossing the line, you pick somebody who's crossing that line, and you're going to bring mess to my house. Now I'm going to have to shut it down, and I'm going to shut it down with fire. You know what I'm saying? This is what's going to happen.
First of all, I'm loving this entire thing right now. It's making me so happy. Secondly, I completely agree. I told my husband before we got married, I said, you shouldn't cheat on me. If you want to sleep with someone else, let's talk about it and figure out a way that we can make that happen.
Yeah.
But also, if you cheat on me, you better never tell me.
Yeah, don't tell me.
That's your fucking burden to bear. That guilt is your burden. That has nothing to do with me. I didn't cheat on you. Don't try to bring me into that and make me console you for cheating.
And don't give me trust issues because you want to feel better about yourself. Yeah. No, eat that. Yes. Eat it and choke on it.
Exactly. Like, if you're going to, betray the vows we've made, then that's on you, brah. That's on you. That's not on me. Don't try to involve me in that nonsense. I don't want to be a part of that.
Talk to your therapist.
Exactly. Talk to a paid professional who is not me. Hilarious. Also, you guys, I want to know what you think. Jane, what do you think about the fact that he cheated on her?
I also didn't care. It didn't seem like they had a real marriage at that point, and both of them seemed like they didn't think it was a real marriage, so I was like, whatever.
Yeah. And it was super early. It was like a week after he got back, or 5 days after he got back. Like, they had just met, just married. She won't sleep with him. And he's like, well, I don't want to, like, literally in his mind, he's like, I don't want to pressure her into having sex with me. So I'm going to just go have sex with someone else so that I don't pressure her.
Yeah.
Which, like, again, he's a terrible human being. He kills people for a living. So it's not like he's like, I can see when you see his childhood where that makes complete sense to him. He's like, that's a really logical, everyone I know cheats on their wives and has sex with whores and side pieces and mistresses. It's not a big deal as long as you don't throw it in your wife's face.
Yeah.
Because he even says that. He like sneaks out after she goes to sleep because he doesn't want to throw it in her face that he's going somewhere else for his needs. And for him in his life, he's just like, this is how I respect her. Like, she doesn't want me to push her.
But also, she grew up in this life too. So I think in his mind, he's also thinking she knows what time it is.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's kind of fucked up, but, like, a lot of my friends who come from the islands, right? Their partners will cheat on them, and their mothers will tell them that's just what happens. Yeah. That's just what they do. Like, and their mothers were cheated on, and their mothers were cheated on, and they had multiple families and that sort of thing. Sure. And where my dad's from, that's very common. And my grandfather had a whole other family in another city, and people just say that's what they do.
Right.
You know, and so, like, for him, it makes total sense to me that he's like, oh, she grew up in the same life. We have the same culture. She knows what time it is.
She knows her dad isn't faithful to the mom. Like,
you know what I mean? Everybody has a mistress, you know? And it's like...
And it's not like he threw it in her face. It was like the cousin and Grace, who was the one he slept with, who, like, orchestrated it and gave her the key and told her what time to be there so that they could so that she would catch them. It's not like he brought her to the house. Like, she never would have found out if the other people weren't being shady.
Yeah. But also, like, he's supposed to be, like, the most feared person ever. And the fact that they would set him up this way, like...
Well, I think they thought she would never tell.
That Grace would never tell?
So Grace was never going to tell him that she did it. The cousin was never going to tell him. And I think they thought the wife would never, that Arya would never say that Cormia gave her the key.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I'm like, they're not
because
very
they're
scared of
assuming
him.
that she's weak. Because Grace said in her, well, first of all, Grace isn't part of the life, so she doesn't really understand. She knows he's a bad dude, but like she doesn't really understand that he would happily murder her and no sweat off his back. So because like she's not part of the culture. And then I think the cousin assumes that she'll never get found out.
That could be, and that she's also like blood family, so maybe.
Right. Although he's already killed someone who's a blood family member, so if I was her, I would be like, if her friend asked me to do that, I'd be like, nah, bitch, this dude's crazy. Man. He started killing people at 11. I'm not trying to fuck with him.
This is not my.
You're on your own.
You know what I'm saying? In my regular day life, if somebody seems a tiny bit shady, I'm like, nah. Like they're not even murderers. I'm just like, there's something in your eyes that I don't trust. So I'm gonna back off.
So there's a couple things in this book that after I skimmed through the other book, I was like, oh, that would have been interesting to know. So she tells Gianna right away that he didn't rape her that first morning.
Yeah.
And she in the other book, and she tells Gianna, hey, don't say anything. You still have to treat him the same and pretend that you're mad so no one finds out. So Gianna goes like, basically is so mean to him because she's
overdoing it.
She's like well, partially because she's like, yeah, again, like overdoing it, tried to protect her sister, but knows that he didn't actually rape her sister, which I thought was like an interesting story note from the other one.
Yeah. Oh, maybe, okay. Answer me this question. Have you ever been to a gynecologist and have they ever given you the pill or any pills and said that these pills will take into effect in 2 days?
No. No, it's like 2 months, isn't it?
No, it's a week past your period. Like, I think it's like you have to let your period go, and then a full week after that before they're like fully in effect. So when he's like, you have to start taking these 2 days for them to start working, I was like, either Cora Reilly has never been on the pill, or like she's just making him dumb.
I thought that was super weird. I thought it was super weird. I mean,
there was two weird medical things in this book that I was just like, what?
Yeah. I thought it was weird. So like a lot of stuff happens in this book, but like you said earlier, it's kind of like formulaically mafia.
Yeah.
So there are a couple things I wish happened in this book and subsequent books. I wish that we got to put a face to the Bratva. Because it wasn't scary to me, because they're just like an unnamed Bratva. Yeah. Oh, the Russians are so bad.
Yeah.
But we never had a moment where he went to go meet with like the son of the leader of the Bratva and they had like an intense exchange.
Yeah.
And you knew like, oh, it's Mikhail who's coming for you, or Vladimir is on his way. Like I needed a boogeyman to attach to, whereas like just having it be like a faceless organization just didn't make it as powerful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like also, I wish that something else had happened in this book in the background. Like, so like they just kept getting attacked and attacking each other. And that's all that happened in this book. Yeah. And I kind of wish that there was something else.
There had to be like a pinnacle. There was no climax. Like there was a climax of the violence in the sense that they went to the Hamptons to try to kidnap or kill his wife, kill Arya. But like you said, it was just like, oh, they burned down one of our shops. We're going to hit one of their drug dens. Oh, they are pressuring one of our restaurant owners. We're going to go pressure their people. And like there was, again, like no point to it aside from like territory. Yeah. Like it would have been better if it was like, oh, there's a new leader of the Bratva and he's hungry to take our territory and we have to protect it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it felt very like tit for tat.
Tit for tat. And I'm also like, you just attacked them. Why aren't you doubling down on the protection that's everywhere?
For real.
Like, come on now.
Yeah, and his dad gets assassinated. Yeah. So his dad is literally a horrible human being. Like, worst of the worst. Just imagine the worst of the worst. That's him. He's a terrible human being. And him and his brother are contemplating how they're going to kill him. Because now that basically Luca and Matteo, I liked their relationship together. I thought they were the strongest part of the book for me. Or one of the strongest parts. And they are, after Luca marries Arya, and they go to dinner at the dad's house, and he realizes like, oh, I was going to wait and let him live for longer, but he's too much of a threat to her, and I can't let him be by her. And so we got to kill him faster. We're going to let him live for, whatever, and just suck up the fact that he's terrible, but he's got to go.
Yeah.
Which I liked. I was like, okay, good. Yes. Kill this mofo. Let's do this. Yep. I like this. Make it a terrible death. And then they don't even kill him. It's assassination by the Russians. It's a drive-by shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, they do, I guess. He could have been saved. And they do say, he can't be saved. Let us say goodbye. And then they just watch him die while stabbing his wounds to torture him a little.
Well, I like the one aspect of it, right? Which is that their father never let anyone go to the hospital.
Yeah.
They had to be taken care of by the in-house medic or die.
Right.
So now it's his turn. The dad's like, oh, take me to the hospital. And they're like, nah, dude. We'll just... and then they send the medic away. And then they just stay there and make sure he can't really say too much.
Yeah, they just watch him die.
And watch him die. And basically let him know that everything he cared about is about to be fucked up.
Right.
You know?
And then they have the big funeral. And he becomes the head of the organization, the capo. And they send... Gianna and Arya and their other two siblings out to the Hamptons where they think they'll be safer than in the city because he's worried that they'll attack while all like the underbosses and captains and whatever are in town for the funeral. And of course they don't. They hit the location where no one's at, obviously.
It's obvious.
So I had a trouble getting a read on Arya in this book because, again, we didn't get to get into her head. And he doesn't really understand her. And also, like, he doesn't understand gentleness in general or closeness or just, like, kindness for kindness sake because of how he was raised. Anyways, it was hard for me to get a handle on her. She seemed kind of like blanket for most of it, where she was kind of a pushover. But aside from the fact that she was like standing up for the fact that she didn't want to sleep with him right away.
Yeah.
But I did like that they had their like fun little sparring session where he talked to her about like how to fight and like, so presumably in the background that was happening more than once. We just didn't see it. And I liked that even though he comes to save her, she's the one who stabs the guy so that he can then get his gun back and shoot her. And then she shoots somebody else too. Yeah. And I was like, okay, yes, I like this. Thank you. Snaps. You shoot those motherfuckers. And I was intrigued by like Matteo and Gianna because I was like, ooh, they're much more fiery. So their book's probably going to be more fun. Oh, were you mad that the one like intense sexual experience we didn't get to see?
Yeah.
So he comes home one night from like all the blood and gore and he's like literally out of it. And he sees her and he just like, they've already had sex by this point. And he just like basically like pounces on her. And in the morning he wakes up and sees that she has like a bite mark on her shoulder, bruises on her thighs. And he thinks that he raped her and attacked her and hurt her. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, I came like 4 times. Like,
and I
loved it. That was great.
And I'm like, really? You closed the door on the best sex scene of the book where we're going to get the darkness of the dark romance? Oh,
yeah.
Hell.
So in her version, you see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she's not like out of her mind. I mean, so it's kind of weird though, because the sex scenes in this book are on the page, but they're also fast forwarded. Like, did you notice that? It would be like a sex scene would start and then it would be like the aftermath. No. So like the sex scenes weren't very long. They weren't very involved.
They weren't very long.
It was like, oh, he started licking me and then I came and then he came and then now we're cuddling and talking again.
Yeah.
But it wasn't very sexy for me.
To me, it was like a sweet little or whatever.
Yeah.
The sex, I wouldn't say it's 5-star sex. I would say I do like, I mean, Cora Reilly can write, but I wanted more. I wanted more from my sex scenes. I wanted more connection between him and Arya.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to have things in common. I wanted them to have more in common than like, oh, we need to be together because we're married. Now let's have sex. And we still have nothing in common. And also, like, I'm a day past 18 and this is a little bit pedophilic. And,
well, I didn't think that because he's only like 21.
Is he? I thought he was like 25.
No, because when they first meet at the beginning of the book,
she's 15.
She's 15 and he's like 19.
Oh, really?
Or 20.
Let's ask Jane. Jane! Lady Jane!
I remember him being 20 when they meet. I think he's 23 to 25 when they're married.
Okay.
When they're married.
So even so, like, he's young. It's not like he's like in his 30s. He's a young. It's just like he seems older because he's been killing and in charge of so much since a child. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Because the same thing happens in the future books with like Matteo and Gianna.
Yeah.
Like he's 2 years younger than Luca and she's 2 years younger than. So like they're only a couple of years apart.
Okay.
It's still like crazy that they're marrying these people off at 18 in a modern society, but like at least the people they're marrying to in this book are like 20, 23, 25. Like that's reasonable if you're 18.
Yeah. But they were going to marry her off at 15.
Yeah.
Like,
her dad's
if he had been down for it, Like,
yeah, her dad is a creep.
Yeah.
Her dad's a creep in the next books, too.
That's so weird.
Yeah. Okay, guys, as you could probably tell, I was curious to see how the books progressed, but I will be totally transparent that I completely read through them. Like, I really was not reading closely because none of these books really, like, hit home for me, especially. I will say that I thought Matteo and Gianna's, like, connection was more fun and more fiery, and they were kind of, like, bickering against each other a little bit. But I wanted Gianna to, like, at the beginning of the book and in this book, she says that she's afraid of, like, being a part of the world because she feels it in herself that she could, like, be a part of the darkness.
Yeah.
Like so Arya goes to dance at the club that the family owns with Gianna when she's visiting and gets slipped a roofie. And Gianna's immediate reaction is like, I hope they kill you and rape you with a broom. Fuck you. And she's like trying to kick this guy. And I was like, okay, I'm interested in her character. But then she doesn't, like, I wanted her later in her book to, like,
to fight like
embrace. Because she says at one point, she actually runs away, obviously comes back because they catch her. And she is at a party and she's like, oh, I'm just one of those mafia wives who's, like, dripping in diamonds and, like, has no opinion and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I wanted her to be like, if I'm going to be here, like, I want to fucking be here. Like, put me in the shit. Like, I wanted her to, like, go in the dark with him and have something happen. And then she's like, we're going to hunt this person together or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something. And that did not ever transpire. Also, it was a really questionable thing, speaking about hospitals, because
the blood transfusion. If you talk about the blood transfusion, I died. I died when they did the direct person-to-person blood transfusion in this book. I lost my mind.
Yeah, they didn't clean the blood. Luca's like, my blood's O negative. Put my blood in her. And I was like, I mean, it would keep you alive.
Yes, but I mean, there's so many things that I'm like I've had many blood transfusions in my life, and I was
it's
just like,
risky even when the hospital cleans it.
It's not only risky, but also your body has can reject it.
Sure.
So they give you medication so you don't reject the blood. So there's no, like, he gives her the blood transfusion and then, like, there's no checking that she's okay.
Also, they have sex, like, 2 days later, and that bitch got shot. You don't have sex 2 days later.
I don't know. That honestly, that blood transfusion moment took me way out of the book. Like, I was just like, what?
Well, they take Matteo to a hospital in his book.
Oh, do they?
Okay, because it seems like he got shot 3 times in this car chase.
Yeah.
And she has to get his, like, heart stops. They have to give him CPR. Or she has to keep him alive, keep him CPR.
Yeah.
And then when Luca gets there, he's like, we have to take him to hospital. The wounds are too bad. But then the next day, he's like, I'm leaving this hospital. And it turns out he has a concussion and cracked ribs. And I'm like, what happened to the gunshots? I was so confused. I was like, if he had a concussion, he's not going to that. She said she's covered in blood. Yeah. I'm like, where's all this blood? What's happening?
Sometimes with these authors, like, I feel like they can put words down on the page, right? And almost like it makes sense, but then it really doesn't. Like,
or if you're writing and it's like maybe you wrote it a month ago and you don't, like, reread enough of the past.
Oh, to know what you changed.
But you would assume someone would have caught that in a beta read, because I was immediately like, well, she was covered in blood. His heart stopped, but then he has just a concussion and cracked ribs. Like, her doesn't stop from cracked ribs. What's happening? What happened to the blood? What happened to the
rib crack?
He's supposed to have 3 gunshot wounds. Like, come on.
Yeah. I don't quite understand it. But, you know, like, for me, I know, like, these books are like potato chips, right? So I don't expect too much for them. I expect 3 stars. They get me what I need, and I keep moving on.
Yeah.
But is it too much to ask for consistency or for a slight bit of realisticness in the books? I know, like, there's some stuff that you're just going to be like, oh, okay, it's a car chase, whatever. It's not really super realistic. And it adds to the excitement. But there's some things I think that, like, if you balance realism with the non-realistic things, then it...
Also, like, you're writing a book, so, like, she could have just said that they had sex a week later.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't have to be 2 days. It could have been a week. It could have been 2 weeks.
It's just part of it's hard for my brain to not latch on to those inconsistencies or weird things. And I'm still thinking of them, like, 3 pages past. Sure. And so that always takes me out of the book, where I'm just like, but why? Also, they, like, you could have not injured her to the point that she needed a blood transfusion on the spot. like that. Or he could have taken her to the hospital. He could have been like, no, for you.
Well, he said he was going to.
Yeah.
And then she said, so she takes
she
a
was
bullet
like,
for
no.
him. She was like, no, like, it's too risky. Keep me here.
Yeah, and I would have been
Which
like,
was
nah.
like her.
She was trying to keep
So
his
it was her trying to like
persona.
show like I can be the queen of this mafia.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it would have been nice for him to be like, no, you took a bullet for me. Like, I don't want you to die.
Yeah.
Or doing it. However, like they wouldn't take her to the hospital because the questions would be too much.
Also, okay, hear me out.
How do you explain that your wife got shot?
Hear me out.
Where's the bodies of the
They
children?
have a lot of money. They talk about how much money they have.
$700 million.
Why don't they have like a hospital type thing just on call? Like a surgery hospital situation that's
Like the
set
Black
up.
Dagger Brotherhood.
Yes.
Where is their training center
Where
with
is
their
it?
hospital?
Like, if you have that
I
much
100%
money,
agree.
I don't
I,
understand.
in fact, know that those are, and you know how I know, Shawnee? From film and television. No, but I 100% guarantee you that they would have a sterile surgery room to do whatever they needed to do so that they could keep it under wraps.
Yeah. You know
Yeah,
what
it's
I
not
mean?
like in the old, like this was like an old timey thing, you know, where he has his medical bag and he comes to the house and he's like the mafia doctor. But I'm like, this is supposed to be
not Little
modern
House on
day.
the Prairie.
He should be like, bring them to me in my sterile hospital room inside my house, sort of thing.
Exactly. They should have their own ambulance. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't get why they don't have something more with that, the amount of money that they have.
Yeah, they
Why
should have a better facility. They should have
Absolutely.
blood bags like in the closet, ready to go.
Absolutely. They shouldn't be doing person to person blood
No,
transfusion.
they should not be doing person-to-person blood transfusions. It's hilarious. Shawnee, that's all the things I had to say about this book.
Oh,
Did you have other things that we missed? Jane, do you have any things that jumped out at you that we didn't talk about?
Well, I wanted to ask you a question actually because I'm Italian, and when I was raised, the mafia was like not romantic to me. It was not romanticized because of like certain things that happened, and I was wondering why, in your point of view, why are mafia stories like? What makes that sexy to you? Knowing the real life stuff.
Sure. That's a great question, Shane.
That's a really great question.
Jane, I want to dig into your past a little bit, but we're on a podcast that's public, so I won't. I think in general, whether it's the mafia or whether it's a gang or whether it's a assassin or a contract killer.
I think we draw the line at like Nazis, I think.
Nazis, yeah.
But everybody else is like...
But I think in general, the danger and their willingness to kill for you and their willingness to protect you, and it's easy to tap into that sort of elemental feeling of protection, and
it's I think it's the closest to like real life. I'll use that in quotations, but it's the closest to real life that you get to like paranormal alpha, like animalistic, like primal quality. Yeah, to me,
and like the safety, like you know you're safe with them because they'll kill for you, kind of thing. Also, in general, like. I don't think this book delivered on it, but I personally like a good suspense romance where there's a lot going on and the adrenaline is pumping and like things are happening. I enjoy that. Shawnee does not, as you guys well know, but I really enjoyed that aspect of some of these books. But in terms of it, I mean, like there's nothing really sexy about the mafia. There's nothing really sexy about a gang. Like there's nothing really sexy about people who actually harm people and kill people. But I think in fiction, it gives you license to explore those like darker thoughts and feelings that you could never go and explore in real life. Yeah. And also it feels like you're getting, I mean, obviously who knows how realistic these books are. And I'm saying not this book, but like these as a category books are like motorcycle gangs. Like I'm never going to go and be friends with or know motorcycle gang people, nor am I ever going to be a lover of one. But I can imagine this code that they stand by and the way that they'll treat me and how they'll, bring me to 5 screaming orgasms a day after riding on their hog. You know what I mean?
None of it's realistic.
Also, there was so much cunnilingus in this book. He went down on her constantly.
Yes. Jane, though, like that's such a great point because as we're talking, I'm trying to put it into different perspective, right? So like, how would that relate to me, right? And I don't know if this is an equal exchange thing, but it's like, would I romanticize like the KKK, like having like a, like a clandestine, they'll kill for you, but it might be you that they're killing.
Yeah. Or like you're really like thinking about the Bloods or the Crips as being like a really romantic organization.
And I think it's probably, when you really boil it down, I think the mafia has been romanticized to us in movies.
For sure.
Growing up. Because just like Bridget said, we've watched a lot of movies with gangs, but they don't romanticize gang life.
The gang members are always the villains.
So I think we're partially trained to romanticize like mafia and Russian mafia and that sort of thing. So it's probably a little bit of that, like that gaze.
For sure.
As well. Wow.
And the idea, again, like that we've come back to many times this season is wanting to be the one thing that he will treat right, or treat well, or
be
take
an asshole
care of
to everyone else.
Yeah, he can be horrible to everyone and kill everyone else, but he loves and respects and treats you well. There's something like weirdly attractive about that idea that you are the person. In the same way that I love, again, to Shani's thing, shifter romances is like, I want to be the one. That's it. I want to be the one, the soulmate. I want to be the bond pair. I want to be the one thing that you will stop killing for or kill for, depending on the situation. Like, I want to be the one who can calm the beast inside of you. I want to be the one who can bring it out in a sexual sense. Like, I want to be the key to all of the things that the partner is. In fiction. In real life, I'm like, I don't need that pressure. See your therapist for your issues, but I think in fiction.
I think a lot of people who want to explore this in reality do it through kink. So a lot of people are like bonded mates. And if you go like on FetLife, where like that's where all the kinky people are, you'll see what they call
What is it called?
FetLife. F-E-T.
Oh, like fetish life.
Yeah.
Got it.
And like people have on there their partner. Like just on Facebook, you can be like in a relationship with, but all the titles are much kinkier things. So it'll be like bonded pair with, Wolfgang Puck.
Wolfgang Puck.
Penis.
Notorious chef Wolfgang Puck.
Wolfgang Penis.
You may have seen him in the soup aisle. Oh, that was my best joke of the day. That was a good one.
But people put that in there. They'll say pet of, or whatever. And so
if someone ever introduced me, this is my pet, I'd be like, you better check yourself at the store.
You better chickity check yourself.
That would be furious. How does that answer your question, James? I feel like we
went off on a tangent.
Yeah, no,
I can see where, in general, the being adjacent to or hearing real stories about any of these communities would make you be like, no, I don't want any part of that. Like, I can imagine, again, like if I lived near a notorious motorcycle club who I knew killed people or had harmed friends of mine or broken windows at a local restaurant I liked or something like that, I would be like, that's not sexy. Those people are crazy.
That's like all those people who like the Night Stalker, like all the women who would come to his hearings after he knew he killed all these people, raped children, all this other stuff, and then they were in love with him. And
like the people who like fall in love with like death row inmates
and stuff like that.
I mean, that's further than I'm talking about, but yes, that is also crazy.
Great.
Guys, we support a lot of kinks on the show. We are all about not yucking your yum. However,
there's some yums that need to be yucked.
If you fall in love with a known murderer and pedophile after they have already been found out, that feels concerning. Feels like maybe the one thing I'm going to put my foot down, that's just not a good idea. I think that's it, Shani. My foot is down. Do not fall in love with a known murderer.
I can't breathe.
Oh, wait, but she falls in love with a known murderer on the show. Shit. Let me rephrase. Don't fall in love with a known serial killer. Or murderer, just across the board. Murders probably aren't a good idea. Gosh. Let's talk about our ratings.
Okay, let's do it.
I, for one, had a hard time rating the characters in this, but I want to hear what you thought about Arya.
I will also tell you I had a very hard time. It's probably why I just settled for 3s.
Okay, so I kind of settled for 3s too, because I didn't hate this book, but I also didn't like it a lot. I was just kind of like, it felt very like, well, obviously I had to finish it for the podcast, obviously. And then once I read it, I was like, well, everyone's going to want to know what I think about the next ones because they know I'm an addict. So I read the next, I actually skipped book 2 because it's about Dante. And I was like, no one gives a fuck about that. I want to find out about... He's gonna inherit the other crime family that Arya comes from. But I was like, we don't know anything about him. I don't care about him. And then the next book was about Mateo and Gianna and then Liliana and Romero.
You know what would have been better? Because you were talking about how we didn't get to hear anything about the Russian family.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have met one of their sons or daughters. And then in book 4, there's a crossover.
I know.
Come on. No,
because then they're having all this infighting within the mafia families. Yeah. And I'm like, why aren't we offering virgins up to the Russians to calm this feud?
Exactly. We got so many virgins.
We got a lot of virgins. We're keeping these ladies on lock. Going to Catholic girls' schools. They have bodyguards who follow them around who will get murdered if they touch them.
Exactly.
I will have to. I mean, yeah. Anyways, I said that he was a Mick child abused mafia man.
I called him a Mick lick mafia fingers.
He does. He licks that girl. Finger. I know he isn't allowed to have sex with her for a while, so he's taking what he can get. But he goes down on her every 5 seconds.
Which, honestly, is refreshing, because I read a lot of books where there's, the dick is the center of the show. And I'm like...
I'm not mad. I'm not mad that he went down on her. I just think it was, almost repetitive.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was nothing else, progressing for a while in the story. So it's not like he went down on her, but then, I don't know.
Okay, so
it's not like they were adding in different areas they were doing. At least, like in a future book, Gianna and Mateo, he,
fingers
her at a dinner party. There's, some fun going on.
I like that shit.
This book felt very...
Okay, so this book is a potato chip book, right? It's only meant to fulfill a specific dynamic, a specific thing. And I think that if you are a potato chip book, you have to deliver the sex. It means your story is not strong, so give me more sex.
Or you have to have one or the other. You have to have one or the other. Yeah. You can have sex that's just fine if the story is great. But if your story is mediocre, then you need to have, flaming, scorch the sheets.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was
I need to overlook that blood transfusion and be like, I don't care about that. They've been fucking a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. It's been 2 days. That seems totally reasonable.
Totally.
Rip her clothes off. Let's go. And I honestly was basically skimming some of the sex scenes because I was like,
yeah.
And then when I read her version, had it been very sexy, I would have reread all the sex scenes because I would have been like, tell me more about what happened from your point of view. And I can tell I just skipped them.
I can tell how I felt about this book because normally when I'm really invested in a book, I lower the speed that I'm reading it at.
Yeah, you guys, Shawnee reads at 3x or listens at 3x, which is like a chipmunk. It's like listening to me. That's how she does it. It's like listening to me talk.
I think you've trained me, really. My sister's like, I can't tell what they're saying at 3x. Yeah. I'm like, really? Because this is how fast my brain moves at any, which apparently people tell me is an ADHD thing. When people speak slowly, you want to murder them, and which is very true. Anytime that people speak too slowly, I'm like, dear God, would you gouge my eyes out? Just put me out of my misery right now. But normally when I'm like, oh, I want to ingest this book a little bit better, I'll lower it down to 2 or even 1.5. This book, I couldn't raise it high enough. I was like, oh my God, I just need to get through it because it was boring to me. Honestly, nothing happened except they just kept fighting each other. And I was like, okay.
I gave both characters 3s, but I gave the book overall a 2.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Yeah, because I didn't think either one was terrible. He did not bug me overly. I didn't feel like any of his choices were things that I was like, I curse you. He didn't send her away. I hate when they send them away for their own good. He didn't do really anything for her own good, which I appreciated. He let her make her own choices and ask for things, which I appreciated. And same thing, she was fine. I mean, she told him, I don't want to have sex yet. She asked for her sister to come visit. She soothed him when his dad died and he was going crazy. And she killed that guy, which I liked.
Do you know what I want, Bridget? I want in some of these romance novels, I want them to go to the grocery store. I want somebody to go I need to go pick up tomatoes. You want to come
They
with me?
don't pick up tomatoes. They have a fucking housekeeper chef. They live in a mansion.
I know they do, but
I like the scene where she tried to make an omelet. She's like, I can cook. And then they burn the omelet and he's like, let's go out to eat. That scene was funny.
To me, like sometimes, because we read all these like millionaire, billionaire books and they don't do a lot of these things, but sometimes I feel like the relationship building is in some of these mundane tasks. Everything that's happening is like on 100. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
100%.
You know, and I'm just like, hey, you know, I ran out of pads today. I'm gonna head to the grocery store. I gotta get some pads, and then that takes its own little journey, and you get a little something from that.
For sure.
Like this book to me, just I don't know. I don't know. Can't put my finger on it, but it's just.
He also didn't. You know what it was? He didn't spend any time with her.
No,
he was at work all the time.
She told him that. She's like, how am I supposed to get to know you when you're gone all day? You know, but like that's the thing that these books sometimes for me are missing. They're like these huge actions on top of actions, and there's never just these quiet, sweet moments where you get a chance to feel their chemistry. Like they didn't have chemistry to me. I don't know.
I thought the only scenes where I felt it were the sparring scene and like her changing in the thing, and then the scene where they made the omelet. I thought was cute.
The omelet scene was cute, but I never felt like a connection between them for real.
But yeah, for the most part, it was. They didn't. I mean,
I
honestly,
wish they had more sweet moments.
Yeah,
I think authors underestimate how nice those little sweet moments can be in the building of.
Talia Hibbert does sweet mundane moments incredibly well.
That's awesome.
Like, what if you guys have read Get a Life, Chloe Brown? Highly recommend. Get on it. But he brings her. She's having a bad day, and not a bad I'm sad day, but like a bad physical day because she has a condition where she's like always in pain, which I forget the name of.
Is it fibromyalgia or?
That sounds right. But don't quote me on that. Jane, can you Google what condition Chloe Brown has and Get a Life, Chloe Brown, please? And so he like makes her tea for her and brings it over and tucks her in with a blanket and just sits next to her. And she's like, oh, I don't know if I'm up for it. And he's like, no, we're not doing anything. Like, you don't feel good. Like, we're just going to hang out. And I was like, the sweetness. My heart, he got me. Red got me right in the heart. You guys, if you haven't read that, I highly recommend it. Go get it. Talia Hibbert is a queen.
I still have not.
Also, we did a great interview with her. You can check that out. And we also reviewed one of her other books last season.
I really liked our interview with her.
I did too.
It's weird because I feel like every interview I'm like, I really like this interview.
They're also good.
This interview. I really like this.
I mean, I'm going to toot our own horn, Johnny, but all of our interviews are wonderful. We ask totally different questions. We just have like such a fun chat with everyone. Everyone's been super open with us. Like, we haven't had any authors who are like, oh, I don't want to talk about that, or like closed off. Everyone's like, yeah, let's talk about romance. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about fun. Jane says she does have fibromyalgia. Thank you, Jane. Yeah, I guess let's just go to our favorite line. Let's keep moving.
Let's go. I got nothing else to say about this.
I got nothing else to say. Let's keep moving.
All right, Bridget, let me tell you my favorite line. It just went back to one of the first things that he said to her, which was, I have no intention of using a fucking condom with my wife. And I was like, damn right you do.
And if I was her, I'd be like, until this birth control is working, you will use a condom, sir, because I am 18 years old and I will not be having a child.
Bridget, it'll work after 2 days. What's the
That's
problem?
True. We're in magical fairyland. Guys, I'm so excited for Aliens and Cyborgs, because in Aliens and Cyborgs, they're going to be like, this is our alien technology. And you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, you can't get pregnant with...
Super duper.
Because of this technology.
Oh, I can smell you're not fertile.
Boom.
Wonderful. Boom. Fucking boom. I am so excited.
I love Aliens and Cyborgs because there's no
tall,
condoms.
Red ones. All the colors. Giant penises.
Oh.
Men who expand during sex.
Oh, man.
So
it's
much.
so funny, like, giant penises, because I always, read these books and the penises are so large. And that is not one of my kinks. Like, I don't care the size of the penis, like, in
how you work it
in books. Yeah. Like, I don't, you know why? Because I pick the penis I want. Like, when I'm reading the book, I don't listen to the author's instructions on half of the things in a book. I don't listen to the description. If it's a mansion and she describes it, I've built my own mansion before she can ever describe it.
Yeah, she said the word mansion and I was like, got it.
Got it. You know what I mean?
Got it.
And I wonder why authors even describe things anymore, like, to the extent that they do, because anybody who's a reader already makes up whatever is favorable to them. That's why when you watch a movie based on a book, you never are satisfied, because they never can be in your brain recreating the magic you created. Like,
I agree.
You know what I mean? So it's I don't know. I don't know why I got on that high horse, but Forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, penises and paranormal.
Oh, penises and alien romances.
Yes.
This is what I like about penises and alien romances. Again, they say things like, I gave you a shot, so you'll be able to take me. Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Super. Solved it. You're an alien.
You get now when you smell my pheromones, you just get dripping wet and are always ready for me. Oh,
Wonderful.
Lovely. No foreplay. I don't need foreplay. I'm just there. Okay.
They always give them foreplay, though.
Oh,
wonderful. Once I'm inside you, I'm going to expand. But my pre-cum is magical, and so it's going to loosen up your body and change your biology from the inside out. Super.
Done. Sign me up.
Sign me the fuck up. And I am excited for it because it is not reality. It's not like in the world, in the United States. These are aliens. We don't know what they're capable of.
We don't have no clue.
But you told me they have special semen that will change my biology, and I believe you.
Yeah.
All right. My favorite line of the book was, she's like, well, you're not going to be faithful or something. Like, she says something like that. And he's like, what do you want me to be faithful forever if you never are going to have sex with me? And he's like, what do you want me to say, Arya? I kill and blackmail and torture people. And I was like, exactly.
Fair.
Like, fair. He's not trying to hide who he is. He kills and blackmails and tortures people.
Yeah. And sometimes
he's going to go have sex with other people if you're going to try and make him wait a whole year to have sex with you. Like, he's going to have sex somewhere else. He's been having sex since he's 13 years old. He's been killing people since he's 11. Like, it's child abusive. He's not a well man psychologically.
I feel like a little bit like Arya's kind of like that kid who has a toy and doesn't play with it, and then another kid comes and plays with it, and then they're like, no, that's mine.
Oh, are you describing my oldest daughter, Kira, when Molly looks at any toy in her house?
I clearly was ignoring this toy for 3 weeks, but now this is my favoriteest toy. Yeah. I'm very, very, very aware of that. Oh my God. So good. My favorite review, I always forget to write down their names. This is by someone on Goodreads. The Madonna horror complex is strong with this one. I wanted to give this 2 stars, but when I read the direct transfusion part, I laughed so hard that I had to add another star. How could I not? I hadn't laughed this hard in months.
So she gave it 3 stars?
She gave it 3 stars.
Hilarious. Okay, mine was from Asheronada Movebo. Gave it 1 star, which I don't necessarily agree with 1 star, but I thought her review was funny. This book and the other, I guess there's another POV novella, are about the same events from the same character's point of view. So it's about the same fucking thing, but I guess Cora realized that she fucked up in the first one, so she had to write another book, which is the same thing. But Luca isn't a horny chauvinist pig anymore, ? That is my problem. Anyway, it did not make me love him more or love him at all. He's still chauvinistic, a cheater, and has no personality as a mattress. The only thing I liked was a peek into him and Mateo's past family and childhood. And I thought it was hilarious that she described him as a cheater with no personality who's like a mattress. I was like, that's fucking funny.
That's funny. I have a question for Jane. Lady Jane, do you like to read the same book written from another character's perspective?
Absolutely, yes. When Midnight Sun came out, I bought it and I downloaded the illegal PDF because I couldn't get to my house in time to get the copy that was sent to me. And I really enjoyed that. I love when they give me both perspectives. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you guys are all book nerds, so you probably already know, but that is from the Twilight Saga, book 1 from his point of view.
My sister texted me furiously.
Did you like the book? Did you like it?
Not really.
I heard it was really it was longer and needed a lot of editing.
Yeah. Also, Edward is so whiny. So whiny. And actually, similar to this one, it was the one scene where Luca is like, the darkness is consuming me. I'm so dark. And he's thinking that in the restaurant when they're eating sushi. And then he's feeding her with his chopsticks when he's like, I'm so dark and horrible. And mouth feeding her sushi.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So dramatic.
They're so dramatic. I do feel like they a lot of times don't have I think anyone in general though doesn't have a clear view of who they are a lot of times.
Yeah, but I'm with Jane in the fact that a lot of books do this, especially all these dark romance books where they're like, I'm consumed by the darkness. But
then he's leaving sweet notes for her and you're like, are you consumed? Because That seems nice.
It's weird because I think sometimes, and this is in real life, people get so attached to who they are defined as or how they've defined themselves for years that they don't notice themselves growing or changing. Sure. They don't notice that people are seeing them differently than they've ever seen themselves. And I think if you're not willing to do self-reflection, you'll just always stay in that place.
I agree with you. I just had a thought. They never had a conversation in this book about how he had to be different towards her in public than he would be in private, right?
No. And that was dumb.
Because in private, he's very like, he's in love with her. So he's like kisses her hair and holds her hand and blah, blah, blah. But when they're in public where he's in his official like capo mode, he like basically ignores her completely and doesn't refer to her at all. And I remember like the first time she kind of looks at him in confusion because in the car he was like being nice to her and then he immediately stops. But he never explains to her, although I guess maybe he thinks she should just know because her dad is in the world. So she should just know that like he can't show any weakness and she has to just be like, he doesn't want people to know he's attached to her, I guess.
I could see that being a justification. However,
but I had the same thought. They should have had a conversation.
In the book, I was like, why don't you just tell her I gotta be mean to you in public?
Because she would have been fine with it.
Yeah. It wasn't like he minced other words. It wasn't like he was afraid to say anything. He wasn't, you know what I mean? So I don't know why he wouldn't have told her.
Or like when she looked at him with confusion, I feel like that night when they got home, he's like, in public, I can't show people that I love you because then you're going to be a bigger target than you already are as my wife.
Yeah.
And like
that would have been hot. That would have got him laid.
I know. And then also like his dad's such a psycho. I would have been like, look, my dad can't know I love you because otherwise he's going to try and like fuck you himself because he's a sadistic, scary piece of shit.
I wish that his dad was out of character in real life, but I've known so many of my friends' dads who've been that creepy to me that like when I was reading that, I was just like, oh, that really exists.
The dad gets creepier because, spoiler, in Liliana's book, when Liliana finally makes it to 18, he marries her to a captain who's his age, so like in their 50s.
Oof. Because
he wants to marry that captain's 18-year-old daughter.
Oof.
So he like trades his daughter for the other guy's daughter.
Oh, man.
Anyways, he's a creepy, I'm not going to say anyways. He is a creepy, super creepy sadistic motherfucker, and he doesn't get any better. He's basically the worst throughout. Nice. And also the Russian thing never develops. It's always like an ominous bratva thing. It never develops into a concrete.
That's a womp.
Yeah, it's a womp.
I'm ready. I'm ready to be out of dark romance. I'm good on my dark romance. I'm ready for aliens and cyborgs. And you know what? I'm ready for my genre, historicals.
Yes,
I'm ready to get into
as a birthday present to Shawnee, I added a historical season in. So we're going to do aliens and cyborgs, fantasy romance, historical romance. Then we're going to slide into our holiday season, go through the PNRs, and we're going to go into our Navy SEALs, sort of like down home Veterans Day boys. And then we're going to slide right into those Thanksgiving boys, country boys, cowboys, those sweet, sweet boys taking you on a ride. And then we'll go right into our Christmas holiday season of just fun and fuckery, as it were.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good year, you guys. I will say, for those of you who love dark romance and have come to see us during this dark romance season, we will do more dark romances in the future.
Yeah. Just not a whole season, probably altogether.
Probably not 10 in a row.
Yeah.
Probably like a couple here, there, maybe 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Because 10 was a lot.
Yeah, it was
a lot.
I needed a little pick-me-up in between. I was like, I need something happy.
I know. I was reading a lot of Lucy Lennox and May Archer. Like, so fun. Such fun.
Yeah.
Male romances.
Like,
and I was like, palate cleansers.
Yeah.
Cleansers.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I probably think my favorite of the season would have to be Avril Ashton's book because she leaned into the darkness for me. I think that one takes the award.
Oh my God. Okay. So my favorite book as a whole was Corrupt. And I liked the rest of those by Penelope Douglas. Mm. I think the sexiest book or the sexiest sex was The Devil's Advocate. But also Love the Sinner was like right there with Devil's Advocate. And then I also thought that Pet had a couple moments with the dirty talking and him like fucking her up against the glass and stuff that were quite nice.
The Devil's Advocate, that was...
But I think The Devil's Advocate was my steamiest of the season.
That was good steam. That was a good steam.
It's a lot of steam.
Yeah.
And then Love the Sinner was also a lot of steam.
Yeah.
It was very dark, though.
Super
and her
dark.
other books are even darker.
Which I was there for, because I was like, I don't want
Call
to
the Corner,
gold.
you guys. It's dark.
Yeah. And then her interview, if you haven't listened to the interview with April Ashton, listen to that, because she is unabashedly, like...
Loves her books.
Books and who she is, and I love it.
So here for it.
And she has, like, the biggest smile I have ever seen in my life. It's like her smile makes you smile. Yeah. You can't not smile when she's smiling at you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's like you, Shani. Give me that
big
smile. Slay so much. Slay so much. All right, you guys, that is a wrap on season number 6 of our podcast. If you can believe that already.
That's a wrap.
Dark romance. We did this.
We did that shit.
We did that shit. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it went well.
It did. It went really well. And we met a lot of new people during Dark Romance.
Yes, we did.
And y'all kinky as shit.
Yes. Welcome to all of our new listeners and to our OGs. As always, we love you. And we will see you guys in a couple weeks for Aliens and Cyborgs.
Yes, baby. It's going to be good, Bridge. Going to be good.
All right. Well, bye, Jane. Bye, Shani.
Until next time, may your books be your lover.
And your hand your best friend. Thanks for listening.
Subscribe to our channel to get new episodes, clips, and more.
And click here to watch our previous reviews and author interviews.